Hello, everyone, and welcome to this brief presentation on a thing that should be understood by everybody, but is not because it's dealing with forgiveness. Now, understand vertical and horizontal forgiveness is the key to what I'm talking about. Vertical and horizontal. Now, what does it mean that love keeps no record of wrongs? Out of 1 Corinthians 13:5. This is an interesting verse, which I believe has been mistranslated. It really should say, plans or plots no evil. Love plots no evil. 1 Corinthians 13:5, plots no evil is really a better interpretation of that. The New American Standard Bible interprets this as does not take into account wrong suffered, and the NIV keeps no record of wrongs. While there may be something to be said about love not keeping a record of wrongs, it appears that 1 Corinthians 13:5d is more likely saying that love does not plot or hurt people, does not plot or hurt people. Now, I believe it to be more accurate, a rendering of this verse is what I'm talking about here. But we won't get into how this relates to forgiveness because it does when we put it in full context. Perhaps there's a tension in the relationship with a spouse, a child, a parent, or another special person in your life. Well, we've all gone through that to some degree, some tension going on. And maybe you feel badly about something that you've done and wonders, how do you deal with it? Because of lingering guilt and with unintended consequences. Has somebody wronged you and you struggle to move beyond the hurt and anger? That's where a lot of people are in a marriage sometimes. I've done family marriage counseling for many years, and I find this is so true in a marriage. It's easy to have one's feelings hurt in a close relationship like marriage. Or have you wronged someone else? Well, we all perhaps have done it intentionally or even unintentionally. Regardless of the specific situations you face, there's a good news. There's a beautiful gift that is found in the Christian faith called forgiveness. It's a beautiful thing when we actually understand when we say the word forgiveness, but we must understand the concept that a vertical plane and a horizontal plane of forgiveness is significantly different. And that's the reason why I'm doing this, is because a lot of people are having combined the two together and got it confused. See, God does not need to be forgiven. Oh, God does. Yeah, I said that. God does not need to be forgiven. He's forgiven all of our sins, past, present, and future already. The vertical plane is Godward. Okay? Sin is simply a mistaken identity, not knowing who we are. Now, sins are the result of sin, S-I-N, that mistaken identity that causes us to really not know who we are because we are really spirit beings that are slowed down to visibility that we can recognize each other on this plane we call Earth. Now, the horizontal has to do with us, our relationships with one another, this way, people to people. Now, this is what is confusing to the religious person. It is. Vertical is God to man, and horizontal is mankind to each other. Two opposite conclusions here, and that's where it needs to be clarified. Vertical action and the knowledge of it is often followed by horizontal actions or reactions, yet it cannot be defined, confirmed, or rejected by the horizontal. That's a very powerful statement. It cannot be rejected by the horizontal. That's from man to man. Now, what God has deemed true is true, whether we believe it or not. Actions equals positive consequences. Reactions equals negative consequences. So are you acting or are you reacting? Well, you can look at your life, and oftentimes it will show you if you're acting or reacting, because the vertical plane action is universally inclusive, with the personal horizontal reaction plays being imperative or bring. Okay, let me say that again. The universal inclusion of the horizontal plane is related specifically to the vertical plane because the vertical plane is what God has said about something. So it brings about a negative or a positive reaction or action according to how we respond to it, shall I say. It's imperative that we bring the vertical action into our lives. See, the vertical is what's true, what God has said. Our horizontal is what we say to each other that may or may not be true. For instance, if we see illness in the church, we end up thinking that Jesus didn't die for sickness. So therefore, we are judging the vertical, what God has done, by the horizontal, what we see in the church. So we bend down the vertical, that's God, man, to the horizontal, what we see in the church. So therefore, we do not rightly divide this answer, this awesome truth, because we have distorted it. I call it distorted thinking. We got to believe and receive what is true, irregardless of what we see with our eyes, because we do see sickness and disease. It's rampant in many areas, even so, even in the church. But we cannot believe that as being the truth. There's a book by, well, some of our students that I'm acquainted with, they've written different books, but Robin Smith's book, It Is Finished, is an outstanding rendition of what is truth, what we accept as the truth. I suggest you purchase her book. It Is Finished on Amazon to get an idea of what the scriptures have purported to us as being truth according to what God has put out, not what we have necessarily put out. Let me say it that way in a very straightforward manner. I'm Dr. Cecil Cochran. If you need clarification or maybe a Zoom evaluation, consider where you are in your quest for forgiveness. Maybe you think you have gone over the line that you can't even be forgiven by God. Well, that's just not true. And let me get with you and help you sort it out. As my friend has said to me, to sort it out and find out what is truth. What is the truth about this forgiveness thing? It's an awesome gift from God. And let us together learn how to live in this truth. As we in everything we do, we always say, be blessed today, because you already are.